Welcome to unDUBBED, the podcast that's unscripted, uncensored, and undeniably data. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Fiona, and today we're exploring how Tableau is evolving within the Salesforce ecosystem with someone who's been at the forefront of connected analytics. We're joined by Kirk Munroe, co-founder of Paint with Data. Kirk spends his days helping organizations squeeze every drop of value out of their Tableau and Salesforce cloud investments. With more than 25 years in BI and analytics under his belt, he's a Tableau ambassador, a certified Tableau expert across multiple domains, and the author of a widely recognized book on data modeling in Tableau.
And if you've ever Googled anything about semantic layers or scalable Tableau architecture, you've definitely bumped into Kirk. He works with companies across North America to modernize their data strategy and empower teams to actually trust and use their data.
You've probably seen his work on the flallagetwins.com, his data modeling masterclass with Tableau Tim, or his collab with Tableau Visionary Hall of Famer Andy Kriebel. Basically, if there's a way to make data clearer, cleaner, or more useful, Kirk's already doing it.
If you've been wondering what Data360 actually means for your organization, how Tableau Next fits into the Salesforce ecosystem, or what connected analytics really looks like in practice, you're in exactly the right place.
But before we dive in, remember to like, subscribe to unDUBBED. And most importantly, please share this episode with your data teams and anyone navigating this evolving landscape.
Welcome to unDUBBED, Kirk. We're both excited and honored to have you here today.
Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here today. And it's going to be a fun topic, I think. So thanks for having me on. You can now say you've had a lot of famous people on and me too. So that's always good.
We think you're famous too. Like when I was going through the hackathon, I was reading your blog. With the 20 Twins. It was the only blog that was written at the time that I could find on the topic.
Yeah, I guess there wasn't a lot. I also feel a little bit like I'm the only person who's not either, yay, AI, it's perfect, or I hate that Tableau Next stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like that kind of just can kind of calmly put it in perspective. Not the only one. I think there's some others, but we seem to be rare for some reason. I don't know why people have such a visceral reaction.
It's change. In my opinion, it's change. People don't like change, and where the product's at right now, it's not as nearly as flexible, or we're not able to bend it as much as the existing product. So it's easy to poo-poo it.
Right. Well, and Salesforce, I think, are really not marketing it very well either, which I'm sure we'll get into, do you know what I mean, as we go, which is unfortunate because it's so good. At least it has the potential to be so good at what it does. So why would they try to market it as something else? I'm always surprised when that happens, but yeah, it seems to happen a lot.
So if you were working in the Tableau Next marketing team, how would you be positioning it?
They kind of almost came out of the blocks with this before it was even the coding probably started on it. Like I would position it for people who work in Salesforce, who want to use analytics in the regular flow of their work to make themselves much more effective. That's the use case though, right? When I hear sometimes some say crazy things like it needs a desktop edition, I'm like, why would it need a desktop edition like Salesforce, right? Or I've even heard we should do Tableau Next public. I'm like, what? Do you know what I mean? It doesn't, like, unless you're going to make a marketplace out of it. You're doing this podcast on YouTube, obviously. Maybe if they made a place for YouTube creators to be able to see their stuff, but it's not really the same as Tableau Public. It's not showing off your viz skills. It would be more like a place everyone could go to make better decisions, maybe. But that didn't seem to be the way they were thinking about it. So that's a couple of examples.
Yeah, for sure. I like, actually, I'd never thought of having Tableau Next in a version of Tableau Public or a public-facing version before. But now that I think about it, HubSpot, when you start out in HubSpot, you can get a couple of free licenses and never pay. Now, they're restricted from a CRM perspective, so you don't get all of the full-blown effects, but it is free. So it's really good for people who are starting out in their business.
Right.
And then after a few people are on, I think you have to start paying, but perhaps there is something in that people could get a CRM view of Salesforce for 1 or 2 licenses and a version of Tableau Next, and then it would get them locked into the ecosystem.
Yeah, that way might make sense. But but upload a bunch of data that's not in Salesforce just for the sake of showing off your biz skills doesn't
Right.
make it. They already have a great platform for that. You know what I mean? Like,
The best.
it's called
The
Tableau
best.
Public, right? Yeah, it's the best by far. So why, you know what I mean? It almost feels like an internal people having to compete with each other happens at companies all the time.
For sure. Now, we seem to have gone down a bit of rabbit hole early on, and I love that. Before the call, we were talking about a potential forward statement that you'd like to share, Kirk.
I was saying I listen to a lot of, this is less of a safe harbor software company kind of thing that we see all the time and more about, I don't know, financial podcasts do this all the time, and I listen to way too many of them, which is, we don't know you or your situation, so please don't buy any stocks based on what we're going to do. Talk to your own financial advisor or whatever. The equivalent, I think, why we should talk about it here is Tableau, for a couple of reasons. One, Data360, but especially Tableau Next is still very nascent and moving. So we don't know where it's going. And we don't, none of us represent Salesforce, right? So because we don't represent Salesforce, we're kind of speculating on which way it's going here, right? In general, we don't know where AI is going. Do you know what I mean? It's
No one
we
does.
see, yeah. Well, I'm trying to think of who talked about this first, but I'd loved it about how, although as humanity, we've been on this exponential curve from the beginning of humanity on um, on progression. Do you know what I mean? Like at any 10-year period, it's done so much more than the time before. But if you zoom in on that line chart, it's actually a series of S curves. Do you know what I mean? I think ChatGPT comes out, it's like this, and then it kind of gets flat before it goes back up again. If you zoom in on any period of time, and I think we might be in that flat area right now to be.
Is that the trough of disillusionment? That sort of
No, that also works. That also works. This might have been Kurzweil or someone that said this other thing about, it was going to come, but bumpy. Also, though, the one that Gartner made famous, I think they stole it from someone, where, technology all goes like this, and then it comes down, and then it eventually goes back up again. It certainly feels like we're somewhere near the top, and it's going to overly correct, and people are going to say that it's not as good as it really is, and then, at some point in the future, we'll figure it out. But we'll talk about that today. I think the potential's, as long as people put in perspective, I think the potential's amazing, which hopefully we'll talk about. At least somewhere I think it's going to go again.
And I think that also giving yourself a little bit more kudos in the fact that I know that you've been up to your eyeballs in the solution and really giving it a red hot go. So I would suggest that you're synthesizing your knowledge of where the platform's at right now and the potential of where you see that it could go.
Thank you. Maybe you're right. You never know, but thank you. I'm definitely, a lot of time in it for sure.
Kirk, we always love starting with the person behind the professional. You've had quite a journey from product management at Cognos and IBM through to Salesforce and Tableau, and now running with Paint with Data. Can you take us through how you ended up where you are today?
The first thing is that by my nature, I'm very curious. So, and probably fairly confident. So, I don't set long. I always find a joke this: where do you see yourself in 5 years? I'm like, I don't know where I'm going to be in 5 days. So, but I kind of chase what I like doing, and then I try to get an event of what I like doing and what I'm good at, and hopefully they often go together anyway. And from the time I was very young, I was intrigued by what software could do to make our lives easier, effectively, in all kinds of different ways. And also, when I was at Cognos in the early kind of 2000s, I thought about becoming a management consultant because I love that side too. Do you know what I mean? Like, I love technology, but really on behalf of making process better, right? So, but I didn't make the leap to management consultant because they because they kind of, I thought that'd drive me crazy because I'll make all these recommendations and then have to leave, and they probably won't follow a lot of them, and I won't feel good about not being able to follow through. And I didn't really want to be kind of a system integrator who just built stuff because that's no fun, but wanted to see it through a little bit. So I always wanted to end with this boutique-y, half management consultant, half system integrator that could take people all the way from the business redesign all the way to, making it happen on maybe a small scale, but I'd rather do it on a small scale, but across the whole thing than not. And the opportunity really opened up because my wife Candy, who's a 5-time Tableau ambassador now, I actually started the company a couple of years before I joined. So she had already kind of had it started. So she'd done all the hard work of incorporating it and all the
Riding on
I
each
just got to come and do
coattails.
the fun stuff. Yeah.
Kirk, let's talk about Data360. There's a lot of buzz around it, and we'd love to hear your perspective on what it actually is and why it matters. What problem is Data360 trying to solve?
Yeah, and a little history on Data360 because I think it also shows what it's good at. So I think it's Salesforce, so it had 100 names, but one of the early names at least was CDP because that's what it was. So it was a customer data platform, and you can imagine it was really targeted for marketing cloud users effectively. So for marketers who were in B2C industries that imagine if you do that in a multi-channel kind of way and people come to your website and they come to your store or whatever, and you have to try to consolidate all those different profiles into one profile. That was what it was really good at. And recently they added the ability to reconcile accounts, which you could also imagine if you're like a bank or something and people open different accounts and they have family accounts and they have business accounts, and how do you know they're all the same person? So that was what it was historically good at. I think then what they opportunistically did when they called it Data Cloud, now Data360, which is kind of interesting. The one way I think that Tableau, and we can talk about how Tableau and Salesforce cultures are different in a lot of ways and similar in a lot of ways. One of the ways they're similar, which is neat, is a very kind of low to almost no code way of doing things. So they evolved it into a data lake host that's purpose built for bringing in, I would say, Salesforce objects as a primary, or Salesforce tables as a primary kind of object. And then you can link out and make queries through it to Snowflake data or whatever you want almost, right? It's the way they've made it very easy to configure and bring objects in. I really like it. It probably drives the hardcore data engineer types crazy and they probably don't want to use it. But for me, it's great. Like, it's a simple example on Snowflake, which is also a wonderful product. But Tim and Gween and I were trying to work in a video for his 25.3 series on this new Tableau cloud feature, which is if you have your foreign and primary keys already defined in Snowflake or Databricks, the Tableau now, you'll just say add related tables that'll build a semantic model for you, which is cool. So anyway, so I'm kind of excited about Data Cloud, and maybe it'll have some shortcomings versus those because it's purpose built, but it's great to be able to bring in, consolidate all your Salesforce data, some data from other places, and kind of get a unified view, which is really good if you're running, which a lot of big orgs are, like 6 or 7 or 10 different Salesforce orgs. Like it's a way to also bring all that data together. So yeah, I think it's good. I think it's for your typical Tableau user. It might be a bit of a leap, but it'd be less of a leap than trying to learn Databricks for do you know what I mean, or Snowflake or something.
And coming from a financial background, that unified view of a customer, so important. I remember just in banking, a customer address would change and we'd have to update it in like 10 different places, which is
Right.
so painful, right?
Well, yeah, what they do that I find is really cool is they'll leave all those records, but then they have this unified profile that links out to them. So you don't have to change data, but you know who all those people are because you have this effectively linking objects, which is a nice way to go about it.
And you can say this address takes priority above all others.
Right. And then when you're unifying profiles, you're like a government driver's license is obviously more important than a loyalty card. When you're trying to match people and you can set up all those reconciliation rules and things, that's kind of its underpinnings because that's where it started. So
Yeah, it was the thing that I was most excited about as as I was going through the 12 plus hours on the trailhead, uh, I I actually found the training quite difficult to follow along. So I was trying to set up an SDO and have a muck around in Data Cloud and found I couldn't achieve that. But once I started to just follow along and go with the flow, and not try and add my own muscle memory into it, which is how I
Right.
learn. I found it easy to follow along with, but I was so excited to see this unified customer profile because in a past life, I've been responsible for bringing a CRM online. And, that kind of thing is just a massive headache for any marketing professional to be dealing with as they're trying to, communicate with their clients.
Yeah, and ETL tools don't really fix that problem, or have never traditionally tried to
Mm,
fix that problem,
Mm.
right?
yeah, for
Well, they'll
sure.
clean up the spelling of your addresses, but they won't go, those two people are the same people, right? Like,
Exactly. And to be able to have multiple rules as well. So if you needed a way to find the head of a family, you could potentially do that. Or, in another sense, how do you find the unique individual? In a Tableau sense, if we talk about it, so Tableau public type things, you might want to send to my personal address, but everything
right.
else Salesforce related, you might want to send to my business address. And so understanding those different use cases, it can be super, super powerful.
Just a quick thought on it too. There's another deeper thought that we don't have to go deeper in because it's a little early, but I think what they're also doing, which is neat, is applications are typically built on these bazillion tables because that's the most efficient way to write data into them. Right. So like
Hmm.
inserty kind of things, which as analysts we don't think about a lot, but you see these applications and you're like, why does it have 500 tables in it? Because it's the most efficient way to do that. And then you'd have less tables in a data warehouse. Some people denormalize them to single tables to analyze them. But now I think they're taking almost in between and they're starting to build a special type of application, which is a pull data out to give people answers as opposed to put data in application, which could be pretty cool. I've had a good laugh about people going like SaaS is dead because of AI. I'm like, well, where's AI going to get the data? Like someone's got to put it in the first place, right? But
Right.
now these answer-based decision applications, not just a UI layer built on top of a data warehouse, could be a really powerful thing. It's a thought that's not fully formed in my head, but I think that's where they're going, like
Mm.
beyond Tableau Next.
All right. So, Kirk, what are you seeing when organizations first implement Data 360? What's changing for them?
Um, uh, yeah, so I think what it enables right away, which is powerful, is they're sitting in one of two places today. They're either blind because they don't really have data other than those candidly awful Salesforce reports that you can't really report on more than one object or maybe one object away. If you've ever tried to write those, they're super limited, right? Or what happens is they pull data out of Salesforce maybe, and it's in Snowflake or Databricks or somewhere. Um, but the data engineering team doesn't really understand, what they're trying to achieve. So they've got a lot of data, but it's hard to get answers back out of the data. It's easy to get data out of the warehouse, but it's hard to know what it's saying. So now, because it naturally has a bit of, or quite a bit of the application logic in it, you're much more likely to get the answer that you would expect to get out of it. It's maybe not as automatic as one might expect it to be, but it's way better than the alternative. Do you know what I mean? It takes a pretty special data engineering team to be able to build a warehouse that's usable right away that people know what's in it. Do you know what I mean? Like
Mm.
sure, you guys deal with DE teams all the time. I'm not here to rag on DE teams, but they typically, you know what I mean? That's not my job. Do you know what I mean? To actually understand how people are going to use this data,
And I
right?
think as we get deeper into the Salesforce ecosystem, what I'm seeing is it's so customizable that there isn't really a solution out of the box for people to say, here's Data 360, and this is how I'm going to use it like the customer used it before me.
It's an excellent point because it's not, and this one at least, it's not Salesforce's fault that it's not as out of the box as it should be because everybody customizes the living heck out of Salesforce. So how could they possibly know, right, how to build these? Like I tried that customer 360 data model with a customer, the out of the box one. I don't know if you've tried. And I opened it up and it's got broken relationships all over because like they're super customized, right?
Yeah.
So, and they're all like that. Like,
But that's the beauty of the platform as well.
yeah.
Sarah and I were having this exact conversation yesterday as we were looking at some client data on their instance.
Oh yeah.
And we were talking about how much it had been customized. But yes, of course, it fits their business model, like a glove. And that's why
Right.
people love it so much, is
Yeah.
because it
It's so
works so
easy to do
well,
it.
and we're not expecting a cookie cutter approach to the organizations.
Yeah. It's so, I mean, we didn't even talk about this part, but if you're a Salesforce admin and your stakeholder comes to you and goes, "We need a new field," like you can
Mm.
deploy a new field on the page in like 5 minutes or something,
Well, this was
right?
happening on
So
the call we were on yesterday. One of
yeah,
the guys is like, "Oh yeah, we need that field," and goes and creates it, and it's in there.
yeah, yeah. And then you could get, and with data loader, it's easy to populate it if it's somewhere else. So it's and so people already use Salesforce as a database sometimes too. Like you'll see a lot of custom objects that aren't even populated from Salesforce, but they data load in so they can get other data next to it, which it wasn't really meant to do, but Data Cloud is. So it's like it now it makes total sense.
Well, it's that true single pane. Let me start again. It's that true single pane of glass, where
Right,
people can look, I'm on this page. I don't have to go to 3 different systems to get that information. I can just have it in one spot, and it saves me
right,
time and effort.
right. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Kirk, many of our listeners are using Tableau Classic right now. What should they be thinking when it comes to Tableau Next, and when does the transition make sense?
Uh, yeah, let me answer this in two parts too. One thing I hope that people do, and we got to present on the analytics talk at the same time in the summer, whenever that was, is like I hope when they look at it and see Tableau semantics, that they realize it's effectively the exact same code in Tableau Classic, and they should be building better semantic models in Tableau Cloud, even if they don't use Tableau semantics. So first off, I hope they look at that and go, you know what, I've been way too lazy on my semantic models, right? Or I didn't
Mm.
even think of them as semantic model. Um, on the I, I'm a little more black and white than most people, I think, on when to go to Tableau next, right? So I think if your customers, if you work in a company or you're a consultant or you're thinking about your next career step, if the company doesn't use Salesforce, I don't envision a world where it would ever make sense to go to Tableau next, unless they fully stop supporting the product, which I don't think will happen. A new release of Business Objects came out earlier this year. Like that got acquired, what, in 2007 or something, right? So I would expect Tableau Classic to be around for a while. On the flip side, um, I would get ready because I would think sometime between 12 to 20, say 12 to 24 months when Tableau Next gets good enough. Equally, I would say anyone who's on the Salesforce platform that's it doesn't make any sense not to go there. Do you know what I mean? Because from an integration standpoint, in a maintenance standpoint, because remember, if you go with Tableau Cloud as an example, or Tableau Server, doesn't matter which one, you need someone to administer that thing. It's obviously a lot more work to administer Server than Cloud, but you still need to have at least one site admin. But you already have a Salesforce site admin, and it just fits into that site. So I think it makes a lot of sense. But I look at it that way in terms of, is the customer primarily the people that are going to use it live in Salesforce, then it should be there. And I would think, to close on this, in a lot of big companies, it might make sense to have both, which we can get into for different use
Mm.
cases, which would be totally fine. And they're working harder than probably even I would on this to get semantic models to work in Classic and published data sources to work in semantic. So they're trying to make that easy. And I don't even know if you need those connections to, but because different groups it might sit differently, right, or for different use cases. But career wise, people should not be afraid of it and should be at least somewhat looking into it, because um, I, I I would expect it to be more where the future goes. Would be more integrated analytics for sure, and there's some very specific roles that are going to exist over there that are going to be higher value than what you could do today.
I think you're spot on, and it really excites me to hear someone else speaking positively about what the future of the platform looks like, because I think a lot of the data fam um, are struggling at the moment with the positioning of Tableau Next, but I really believe that analytics is moving so quickly that it's important for us to adapt, for us to
Yes.
change, and to seek out alternative data roles that fit within the ecosystem. So you touched on that a little bit in what you were saying there. Where do you foresee that there are opportunities for people who are currently visual designers in Tableau Classic moving forward into this new ecosystem?
Yeah, so I guess it depends how they see themselves as a visual designer. If I saw my job as writing to somebody else's spec without trying to figure out what they're doing, but my job is to make it look important and follow best practices, I'd be worried about the longevity of that job. I'm more negative on that, I think, than most people are negative on that. The reason why, I think, to shorthand it, is anything that you could say is a best practice. And I know people be it's not best practice, but it's, you know, but it's near best practice, right? If it can be codified, like some tech's going to replace that, you know, like because it can be codified. So I'd be a little worried. I think we're at a point now where, but it's still a skill to know how to present data the right way if you're actually getting to people's question. So you're focused on their question and not the chart. Like I've never been able to get excited. I'll be candid about, oh my God, this is such a cool chart. I'm like, without context, it's not. It could be. It could be a really cool chart with context, right? By helping people see something quicker that they couldn't see otherwise, then it's a cool chart. Like you're not providing any value, like very limited. So I would say the two areas I would say to go, and if you like the visual side, is yeah, I mean you have to get more consultative. Try to figure out what people um, really want, and then remember that you're building visuals on behalf of those problems. And I've thought about it a lot. Community projects have hurt that in a lot of ways because the data sets people get are just not interesting, so they have to try to make them interesting, right? But like you don't need some great visual to understand them, or they're so historical it doesn't matter anymore. Like, and it's not like there's other ways to do that now and tools to do it. So, but get focused on what are the questions people are trying to answer, and make sure you're answering those, right? So get more consultative, whether you work for a company or you're a consultant or what you're going to do. And the other one, and this could be my bias, which I'll admit quickly, is I think building semantic models is going to be even way more important than that. Now, it might not turn everyone on. And the reason why I'm super skeptical of AI doing this well is because we just talked about this. People customize the living crap out of like their Salesforce or whatever. And the rules of how to enter that data, work with the system, are not often enforced by the software. Like people know the process. So someone's got to figure out that process and turn around and codify that process somewhere else. If you're going to expect some agent to be able to give an answer about that question, right? So um, I I'm not sure if it's the same for you, but as a consultant, I feel like I spend a quarter of my time, especially on these Salesforce implementations, going, okay, show me how they do that. And then your service tech, when they goes in, what do they update? Like, does the product force them up? And they're like, why do you need to know this? I'm like, because I don't know what the data is if I don't know how it got created in the first place. And then if I know how it got created, then I can probably find a way to codify it to help in AI have a hope of being able to answer someone's question about it without me needing to answer the question for them. So
Yeah.
that was probably a lot, but I do think just there'll probably always be a job for being able to create pretty visuals. I mean, there's like information are beautiful things. There's magazines and newspapers online. Like there's cases for it. I'm not saying there's none, but like in business, I don't think people care that much anymore. Do you know what I mean? Like
I
that's my
think
thought. Was
that
that too dire?
no, that's really good. No, so there's actually a couple of things that I want to dig into on this.
Yeah.
First off, I think that what your first point lends to is gathering requirements. So really spending a decent amount of time
Right.
And the
with the
problem.
client or with your stakeholder, exactly, Sarah, understanding the problem. And so any quick tips for people that you think would
Yeah.
help them?
So I always try to start with, and there doesn't need to be more than 2 or 3. If I had a chance, if I was a dashboard designer, data analyst, whatever, and I had a chance to get in front of an executive, the first question I would ask for sure would be, what are the 2 to 3 questions that you don't have the answer for today that if you did would fundamentally change the way this business runs? And then I would bust my ass to go answer those 2 to 3 questions.
Yeah,
Right.
what keeps you up at night? That's what I always think when
Yep.
I'm talking to execs.
Yeah, 100%. I switched off that slightly only because I think it works too, but then you get into uh, the risk ones, which aren't as much fun as the other ones, but they're equally important. Do you know what I mean? Because then you get the ones if something goes wrong answers versus the fun if something went right answers. But it also works. Like they're things that, we know without going all behavioral economics, they care 2 times as much about risk as upside. So maybe your question's the better one. I'd just rather work on the other one.
Good point. I'm going to keep that one in mind.
Secrets of Kirk's life. Keep it interesting. Steer them this way. The other thing, so coming back into the semantic models, and I'm glad that you've touched on this space. I am 100% in your camp about this is a huge opportunity for data professionals. I found when I started to spend time in the semantic layer at the beginning, God, it was tedious.
Yeah.
It was tedious, but it really lays the foundation for me doing great data work. And what I mean by that is once I've got everything defined, available, I've got my calculations there, I've got my business preferences sorted out as well. Then when I go to design a dashboard in Tableau Next or design some visualizations, I don't need 50 things on my page. I can really think about what are those top 2 questions that they're trying to solve and layer on the things that at a high level will help them. But because the semantic layer is behind the scenes, we can then use Tableau Agent to ask some questions of things that I haven't, as the designer, put on the page.
Yeah. I probably like a lot of people who wanted to think of themselves as Tableau Jedis or whatever over the years. I used to take a lot of pride in like my ability to write really complex LODs and stuff like that. And then you get over yourself and you realize if I was better at data modeling, which probably led me to writing the book, it's like I wouldn't have to write those things like if I have to write them, I should be ashamed of the data model I gave myself that I have to, make up for the sins of that data model for. The other thing is, I think we're going to talk about this anyway, because they talk about it. Like I think, I'm not sure both of you are also in the Tableau Semantic AI beta, but I know they've been talking about it a lot anyway. It's a pretty open beta. One of the things I love about it is commenting fields is so tedious. It's even way more tedious than, creating the relationships between things. But what they've done, I don't know if they've done this on purpose, but I really like it, is because human nature is a funny thing. Like what they'll do is they'll now you can just press a button and it'll auto-generate a field description. And it's funny, you look at a blank field description and go, oh, I don't want to write a field description. I click on that and it's never perfect, but it's kind of close. And I instantly go, that's okay, but it's not a great description. And then I want to update it. So I click it and I want to update. Like it's just natural. So I think they got to change. So the point isn't this thing can write, your field description. Like how could it? Do you know what I mean? It gets certain things wrong. And it'll be like, and orders are connected to orders are connected to line items. I'm like, no, only products, or whatever it is. And I'm like, that's not exactly right, but it's close. I want to update it. It's like, it's actually fun to,
To
it's
fix
probably
it.
because we're terrible as humans. Yeah, like to fix something is fun, but to like create it from scratch isn't. So I think that's going to be great. Like that feature's going to be really, really good because, yeah, we see this with GPTs. I think most people like Chat GPT keeps getting worse instead of better because they keep expanding the training set too much. It's because they're going for artificial general intelligence. I'm like, and they're insulting our intelligence, kind of. I think because if I was ill, I would know to go to a doctor, and if I had a plumbing problem, I'd know to go to a plumber, and if I needed something wired, I'd know to go to an electrician. So I don't know why they're not focusing GPTs on really good training sets and like letting us be smart enough to know which one to use, right? So I only bring that up because it works in the semantic model, where if you think that GPT is going to give you a good answer, if you don't spend the time to like tell it what everything it means and what the relationships are, it's not going to. Do you know what I mean? It's the training set that makes them awesome at this point. Do you know what I mean? Like they've already proven that they can troll it and pull it apart quick, right? But they're only as good as the training set they're given.
It's interesting that you raise that. I was listening to a podcast on the Diary of a CEO last week on AI, and it's with a guy named Tristan. I don't know what his surname is. That's how good my memory is. Anyway, Tristan was talking about how they're talking about the speed and the rate of which AI is growing and what may happen to humans through that. So quite an interesting and provocative podcast. But one of the things they talked about why people won't pull the plug now on any delivery and why they continue to compete. An excuse that's used is, well, what happens if China beats us? And uh, don't worry, I'm not going to get political on this. So
Yeah, no.
we're totally good.
Yeah.
So what he said, though, is China go really deep on specific areas to make themselves great at things. So, for instance, electric cars, originally we would say Tesla, hands down, was beating the market. But if you look at what China has been doing with BYD and the way that they approach everything, they went deep in that space to push themselves forward in an area that will help them to grow. Whereas what we're seeing in OpenAI and Grok and Gemini, they're all trying to head for artificial general intelligence.
Right.
And so just a really curious observation I felt, and it resonated with me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a good metaphor for it. Yeah.
For sure. We've spoken a lot around the semantic layer and, how it's really important to spend more time probably building that foundation. And we find, you spend 80% of your time at least in the data preparation before you can even get to the visualization. What's your advice for data leaders who know their data models need work but don't know where to start?
In the Tableau ecosystem, they should do the masterclass that Tim and I did. It's free.
We'll put that in the show notes.
Okay. No, but I think it is good. It takes quite a while to wrap your head around. I think part of it's just a mindset shift. We've already matured a bit. Okay, so Tableau, products like Tableau matured us from, and the Cognos and business objects before that, but they matured us from, hopefully, although I still see people doing this, it's like someone asks a question, I have to write a SQL query, right? The reason these products got better is I don't know what question I want to ask yet, so I don't want to structure this query because I don't know. That's what makes Tableau to me so special compared to other products, and to me still way better than products like Power BI, which could be another podcast, is not to dump on those, but it's not because building dashboards isn't the fun part to me. It's exploring your data, right? So, and then this is the next evolution of that, right? So where you're really going to show up. So we tried to do this. It's hard to get it across for the type of people who would go to a session, but when Thomas and I at TC 2 years ago talked about multi-fact relationships for the first time as an example, I go, it's not the modeling that's neat, but I tried to make this case. I almost even tried to find an old one of those tables in the e-shirts. But I go, it's funny, the old Tableau demos used to be, I'm going to click around and I'm going to find out it's tables in the East where our profitability is low because of discounting. And they'd be like, that's why that's a problem. I go, it hasn't sat well with me all these years because I'm like, that's where you have a problem, is you have a problem with that measure in, that area. And so what we tried to build out is I go, but the actual why, or at least a correlation, we don't have to get into the whole correlation causation, but at least a correlation to run down would be like I faked out support case data, inventory data returns so that we could look and say, what else is it about tables? So we know they're not selling well, but why aren't they selling well? Like our support case is high on them. And it's been hard to do that traditionally because you'd have to switch between data models to do that. And then on your own, you have to visually try to figure it out. But now we can build ratios between them. Like we can pull all that data together. So you can't do that by munging one great big table together. It doesn't fit. Do you know what I mean? So you have to know how to model that. And once you do, I just think it's more, I could see a world where people in the business, like even, super senior will come to you and go, that's the person we know who can open up answers to the business, not the person we go to like the old days, who's going to go open up SAS or SPSS and come back in 14 days with an answer, and then we don't care about it anymore. Do you know what I mean? So that's a long-winded way to go. I think, like, here's my example. This is what I'm looking for from Tableau Next, like integrated with Salesforce. Imagine how hard these things are, like using data in the flow of your work to actually material impact how your work goes. Imagine you're a relatively small consultancy, we're a small consultancy, but even if you wanted to ask a question, how many clients have we had in the past that have spent more than an average client, but we haven't engaged with in 6 months? Like, it's crazy. We're in 2025. You couldn't get that answer. It wouldn't be that hard, but it wouldn't be instantaneous. In a big company, it would take a long time. Like, if you know how to model right, not only should someone be able to ask that question and get that answer through an agent, right? Which is the exciting thing. And then the extra exciting thing inside Salesforce is, imagine if we could, and we're not that far off this, going imagine I'm a marketing person and I go, I want to know everyone who has a lifetime value with us of over $1,000, but hasn't bought in 6 months because I'd like to do a marketing campaign for them. I should be able to ask that question, get a list of customers, like highlight it, whatever the visual interaction is, either right click it or whatever I do and go create a marketing campaign. And have it prompt me to go, how often do you want it to run? Like, what do you want their opt-out to be? Done. Like, that would take a marketer like weeks to do today. Like, it's crazy, right? Like, and it shouldn't. Like, and you can think of a million use cases like that. Do you know what I mean? Like, you have some kind of promotion going on, and you have a hypothesis of what the ideal customer would like. You could ask for that list of customers and run. I mean, because I'm a super curious person, which you both are. Imagine what I might want to do is I would say, give me these, split them into 2 groups, and run these 2 different campaigns so I can track them over time and see which one's a better one. Like, people talk about running these experiments all the time and they never do because it's too hard to set them up, right? Like beyond like an A/B on a website or something. Like,
Right.
anyway, I know that was a little off the question, but it's the semantic model that's the only thing that's going to enable that on one side, and then an integration with an application platform, which is why the Salesforce part's exciting, to then actually go action that thing.
100%. And so, where my mind goes to again, and I just want to come back because I'm sure that many data people listening to that might freak out a little bit and sit there and go, what? You mean that a marketer is going to be able to query it and go and create their campaign and do an A/B test and probably even create some control groups and even do some post-campaign analysis to understand what the uplift is and what the best outcome is? Don't panic is my best advice. Like, go out and investigate. How do I become so good at the semantic layer So good. Because if there's no good semantic layer, the marketer's never going to be able to achieve anything, and they're going to poo-poo the situation, and they'll turn away and they'll come back as well. But if you become the person who can sit down, can really understand the business context behind the data,
Mhm.
which is really important to be going and
Yeah.
defining the models, and then creating that creating that beautiful it's like a canvas that people can go and understand, but of the data and that network of data coming together. I think it's
Right.
such a powerful opportunity.
Right. And I think people could, it's not that hard to put yourself in an executive's shoes and go, and think about which of these people they would rather promote or give more money to or whatever, right? Person A is like, they build really visually appealing dashboards when we tell them what we want, or this person has enabled our marketing staff to 10x their productivity, like, or whatever you want to say. Like, it's like, they're much more, tangible results you get out of that.
Mm.
And you have to be patient with it because the tech's not quite there yet. But that
Mhm.
should make it almost more exciting because you have a chance to uh, be an expert on day one. Do you know what I mean? On it. So, and it's not overly technical. Like building these data models or these semantic models are not like, it's not that technical of a job to do. Like you could build these things without having a clue what a line of SQL look like. I mean,
Mm.
it's kind of good to know, like what sequel looks like in a way, but like I never like I tell people all the time, they probably don't believe me. Wrote a book on data modeling, talk about it all the time. Like I've written reluctantly like SQL 3 times in the last 8 years. It's so restrictive. It's like, oh, that wasn't the answer I want. I have to go rewrite this. Like it's crazy versus pull another pill on or like drag a little noodle to connect or whatever the case may be. So
Mm.
yeah, it's definitely worth knowing what is generating, whether you know the structure, the SQL or not. Like I say to people all the time, and remember the semantic model in a data source in Tableau Classic right now, at least, they're the same, completely different UX, exact same heuristics underneath today.
Mm.
So knowing things like, if you pull dimensions from both of them, it's only going to give you the results that from both of them match. If you pull um, a measure from one of them, it will also bring all those in, including filling in any zero nulls. Like, so Tim and I get into that in that video, which is why I'm not just, we don't make any money off it, but I do think people should watch that because like it's completely free and actually watch it 2 or 3 times if you have to, because it takes a while to click. And well, for sure, we'll do one on Tableau semantics too. Like we'll build the exact same thing, or it's something very similar to
Mm.
show the similarities and differences.
Yeah. And I think just going back to the multi-fact table and building causation correlation is, so valuable. I remember a case many years ago where something was going very wrong with credit cards being redistributed constantly.
Okay. Yeah.
And the first thing was going down the rabbit hole of the courier company must be doing something. And it was actually through hand going through surveys that we figured out that it was actually a batch of credit cards, the magnetic strip had warped. And so when the cards were arriving at the customer, they were unusable and they were asking for them to be reissued. But that was like a good 6 months into
Right.
that problem. And if we had a multi-fact table that could correlate between what the survey, the feedback was saying to what the
Hmm.
distribution was saying, then that could have been solved so much faster.
Right. And I don't know if you guys had this case when you went through the data cloud at the time, Data360 training, but one of the examples, customers with a lifetime value of this, or I can't remember the exact case. And then they go, you create, so this is before the semantic model, right? They're like, oh, all you have to do as a marketer is create a calculated insight. And then they show this example. And I'm like, that would have made me happy to write SQL because it's this like Salesforce specific kind of SQL, and you have to know what object stuff comes from. I'm who, how many marketing managers could do that, right? Or so yeah, I don't know. I would look at it. I don't know. We're all excited about it, but I think people should be excited about it. It's still very much a data job.
Mm.
Looking at what's been announced or hinted at with Tableau Next, what do you think will actually have the biggest impact on how data teams can work with it day to day?
I think two things. One, so the two things I'm looking forward to the most is it does need to hit a bar of having enough visualizations in it to be compelling enough for people to engage with it. And it traditionally hasn't. I know they added some new chart types in the last little while. I'm not sure why they didn't go for the XY kind of thing that. So it needs that to hit a bar. Like it's got to get high enough to hit that bar is exciting. And then the other one is now that the semantic model does a better job of both reading things like descriptions. But the other thing that's coming, which I'm really excited about, is the ability to actually train the model on top of that. So you can
Me
sit there and
too.
start asking the questions people can do and then say, that's not what I wanted it to be this. And it will help you it'll both help you train it, but it'll also go, oh, I didn't describe that very well in the model. Do you know what I mean? So like we said in my introduction, I've been in the BI space for like 25 years off and on. And everyone's been looking for natural language query for 25 years. Like it's got to come eventually. Do you know what I mean? And this feels like, it finally feels like there's enough infrastructure here to make it work. So yeah, that training the model thing, I'm really excited about. And then when they get enough visualizations in it.
Me
I think
too.
we've got to remember it's still only 6 months old. Tableau Next.
Yeah, about 6 months. Yeah. For like
Yeah.
the Viz part of it.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, I wish they hadn't released it. They should have held it a little bit longer, I think. Like before we talked about what's similar between Salesforce and Tableau, I'll admit that they, like traditional Tableau, at least at the end, right, in Salesforce, where they frustrate me is Tableau waited for everything to be too perfect. Like take composable data sources are taking way too long to come out. But
Mm.
Salesforce are extreme the other way. The risk of this releasing too quick is I just hope their executives don't go, like it bombed, we're not getting any revenue, so they give up on it because
Mm.
it is a great idea and it's got so many good UX parts to it already that I hope they have the patience to let it get good, which would be easier maybe, before it was out in the market and not doing that well.
Mm,
Right.
mm.
Right. And I think they have to figure out their go-to-market a little bit. I'm not convinced the same seller of both products is going to work. Like I think is also probably causing a lot of confusion or expecting someone who sells applications on process values going to get it. Like they've got to iron out their go-to-market too for sure right now. Like
Mm.
they're confusing the seller. So how can that not confuse the market? Right.
Mm.
But it's a tricky problem to solve, to be fair.
If I had
Yeah.
one wish, if I had a wish for this strategy, I would give it away for free right now. And the reason why I would give it away for free, I would make it a part of Tableau Cloud, a part of the SKU initially. So there'll be, you buy Tableau Cloud, you get Next for free. So they're still paying a licensing component. But what that would do is give more people access into it more quickly. If they have Salesforce, they'll want to give it a crack. It will help to surface up any of the potential bugs or the areas that people are saying, this doesn't do this and it's critical. Because right now there's a bit of a tension point, as far as I understand it, between the internal Salesforce product managers who have requirements for Next, and they were originally the only customer.
Yeah, right.
And then the introduction of external clients who have a completely different set of needs to be coming through. And I think if they really want it to be successful, they need to have the clients on board. They need to gain scale and probably deprecate the CRMA product as well. So find a pathway to migrate the customers across when there's at least parity between those two systems. And then you've got less R&D money, less support money going into multiple platforms. You've created critical mass and the product will fly.
So that's
Yeah.
interesting because you say give it away for free for Tableau Cloud customers,
Mm.
where I think give it away for free to Salesforce customers.
It's a good point. So let me go into it a little bit more. The reason why I believe that clients still need Tableau Cloud is at the moment, if they're looking at BI tools and parity, there's no doubt a Power BI conversation happening at the same time. And without having a classic version of Tableau to fill the gaps when Next isn't able to deliver on use cases, that's why they need Tableau Cloud as well. And then I believe that we can talk about it as Tableau rather than this component or that component. It's all Tableau, which is what I believe they're trying to achieve with the interoperability as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
agrees.
go slightly differently again,
Okay.
which is uh, I like a bit of both of them, but I think I would only give it away free for people who are already Data Cloud customers. So say Tableau employees at Salesforce, going back to my kind of blog, they're all Salesforce, but I warned them from the start. I go, my fear with this is the change in people being nervous about it aside, if you don't know Data Cloud, you're going to make a mess at Tableau Next. And I think they did roll it out and people upload flat files and it kind of doesn't make sense. And then like you can't, how do you schedule them? And it's very different, right? Where the metaphor is so different is you always model live in Tableau Classic, and then you decide you're going to turn it into an extract. In Tableau Next, you model it in Data Cloud. We could call it extract without getting into the zero copy thing, but effectively extracted, then built on top of it. Like it's and a lot of the Tableau community, like we kind of touched on it directly, they're data viz people. They're not really data people.
So we think give it away for free while it's still building out, because no one will complain.
Yeah, that part.
No one will complain about something that's free. But they'll certainly give you advice on where things aren't working. And if you're responsive enough to that and designing the roadmap around what that feedback is, because when I got in there, I was like, okay, tooltips, I can't customize them. Labels, I can't really customize them. There's a lack of control that I'm very used to in Classic that I can't currently have. But then I have this beautiful semantic model that's building out behind things. And so there's those tension points between both. And I believe that if we can prioritize effectively in the roadmap for what they're delivering, they're releasing fast. Every time I go in, it's looking slightly different.
Yeah. No, for sure. I think yeah, I agree with that part for sure. But they might say they're giving it away for free now though, because you buy a Tableau Plus license and then you get a dual entitlement to the two of them. Now, your point would be it's only free if you buy, maybe I might be putting words in your mouth. It's only free if you buy the highest Tableau license in the first place. But it kind of is free if you think about it, because you can't buy Tableau Next now.
But what would be the benefit of buying Plus? I suppose there's some AI things in cloud that I would get access to by buying Tableau Plus that I couldn't have on Classic Cloud. But I'm saying just drop it. Like just get it into the Tableau Cloud license. Look, let's be honest, it's not the cheapest license out there either. There's still an investment that's going into the space, but I think people are more accepting of limitations when they feel like it's
Yeah.
they're not paying significantly for the price.
Yeah. Although the one feedback I give them for sure is like nobody, free or otherwise, wants to put a buggy, incomplete product in production.
True.
Right. And there's been some things with it. Again, I just it's hard to do, but I'd so much respect for Snowflake's initial launch that they took whatever it was, 3 years and built it completely stealth and then dropped it on the market as a working product. I know it's hard to do because of the pressures and the capital you're burning through before you have, you know what I mean? But I don't know, a good scotch sits in a barrel for 18 years. They could let it bake a little more before they put it out.
That's some good seed funding, hey?
Oh yeah, they had some.
That's 100%. But I think that we can also start playing with things, understanding where it's going. And that's why I say we'll typically put cloud things and embed cloud using Lightning Web Components, and ensuring that there's that consistency, that backbone in there. But I think having the ability to have the and of Next as well for the Salesforce clients is a nice opportunity, even if it's we release this to certain people so they can play around with it. They can start tuning the models, when that ability's coming in. I think that's going to really set people up for success. And then they may be at the forefront of changing their organization with analytics.
So what they have given away, I think free, for Salesforce customers, to Sarah's point, is there are some pre-built apps like Field Service Intelligence. I think they might call it some. So if you're a field service customer, you can get all these pre-built Tableau Next limited sports. Again, the problem they run into there is everyone customizes the living heck out of it, so they don't really work out of the box the way people expect them to work out of the box. But I do think they'll figure it out in time. I think all three of us are more optimistic on this than pessimistic on this. Do you know what I mean? As they get through it, it's exciting to me for sure. Just to be able to I've been waiting a long time for BI to really be actionable. I think about it that way.
Yeah, some great points there, Kirk, and we could go on all day.
Yeah,
I
forever.
think.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna move us on to the rapid fire. And what I would like you to do is that's the first thing that comes to mind, and Fee and I will fire some questions at you. So I'll kick off. What's one capability you would love to see in Tableau Next that would be a game changer?
The boring one is row level security, so that we could do that. The exciting one is it needs more of the chart types that we've just come to love, like maps and stuff, so that we can build enough in it to make it more compelling.
Complete the sentence. In 5 years, data analytics will be
a more consultative job than it has been in the past.
Nice. What's the biggest misconception people have about Tableau Next?
That Salesforce are thinking that it's going to replace Tableau Desktop in the next couple of years.
One piece of advice for data teams trying to stay ahead of the curve?
Again, it goes back to that get good at building semantic models and build up your, I hate to use the word soft skills because they're really not that soft. Do you know what I mean? Build up your interviewing skills, if you will, and get really curious about how your organization runs regardless of what field you're in.
What's your go-to resource for staying current with data and analytic trends?
Oh, wow, that's a good question. I am an incredibly experiential learner, which is probably why I spend so much time playing with the software before it's ready, because I feel like I have to experience it to get good at it and really understand it. Ironic, run a podcast, but listening to things without playing with things is hard for me.
One data trend that's overhyped versus one that's underhyped.
I think that agents are going to be building your semantic models for you like any day now is overhyped. And what's underhyped is the risk that AI poses to being able to build to a spec. So when someone can define something really clear for it, how good they already are at doing that.
Kirk, this has been such an insightful conversation about Tableau Next, Data360, Salesforce, a few other things in between, about where we're heading and what analytics is doing. Before we wrap up, what's the one thing you'd want our audience to take away from this discussion?
To not be so if the audience is the typical Tableau data fan, don't be threatened. See it as an opportunity, not a threat. Embrace it. Don't fight it. Right? It doesn't mean that you should go all in on it today either. Do you know what I mean? Because Tableau Classic is going to be around for a long time. But find a way, whatever you can carve out, 5%, 10%, 20% to learn this stuff and get really good at it and be excited about that. Remember that there's a whole lot of people clutching on to Excel right now. Don't be that person with Tableau Desktop. basically. Like,
Or SaaS.
or
That's brilliant. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your expertise with our listeners today. We've learned so much.
Your insights have been invaluable, and we really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us.
Thank you. I think, like-minded, consulting companies and things we're looking at. So it was a lot of fun to have this conversation, and hopefully we can get back together in a year or two when this is like really developed and we actually see, the impact it's had.
Yeah, I can't wait actually to hang out with you at TC in Tableau Conference in May next year, because I feel like we're going to be so much further ahead in those next 5 months. So it will be really interesting to see where the product's at. And if you've loved this conversation as much as we did having it, don't forget to follow us, leave us a review, drop us a comment about what you thought, and share this episode with your fellow DataFam members.
And remember, Tableau Next isn't about replacing what works. It's about unlocking even more value through connected analytics. Whether you're just exploring Data360 or planning how to make the most of the Salesforce ecosystem, the key is to start thinking strategically now.
So we're going to include the links to Kirk's book on data modeling in Tableau, his business Paint with Data, and his LinkedIn, as well as that course or that masterclass that he mentioned with Tableau Tim.
And until next time, stay curious, keep exploring your data, and thank you for joining us here on unDUBBED, where we're unscripted, uncensored, and undeniably data.
Bye.